What's up, YouTube? Mr. B here, and if you like Fire Emblem games, then man, do I have a game for you. Check out my Dark Deity 2 First Impressions. Here we go.
What a day for a fight! Feels like a burst of energy.
Let's jump right into my Dark Deity 2 First Impressions. So a lot of content creators like to make Microsoft Paint. I come from the ARPG space with Path of Exile 2 and whatnot, but I'm a teacher, so I like to do slideshows. So let's jump right in. So what will we be discussing in the video? Story, art style, combat, player progression. These are kind of the four main pillars that I feel like should be gone over in any kind of ARPG or RPG in general. Story. We have your typical political conflict as expected in a Fire Emblem S type game. We have characters that are well designed and the banter is pretty good so far. It's a lot better than Dark Deity 1 for anyone who's played that. It is a continuation of the story from Dark Deity 1. It's about 10 years or so, I think, after Dark Deity 1. I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as possible, especially 1. I haven't gone that far into the game itself, but 2, I want to make sure that people can experience it for themselves. But so far, I don't think you need to play the first game to really understand this one. And the mystery and intrigue of one of the characters that is introduced very early on, Saxon, I think is very great so far. I feel like he could have a very dark turn at some point in the story. Would love to find out. If I'm wrong, cool. If I'm right, also cool. So, starting with art style. In combat, the art style is a phenomenal pixel art. The animations are very fluid, very good. I might include some video of it in this presentation. Haven't fully decided yet. But out of combat is this very gorgeous anime style. The characters look amazing. If you played Dark Deity 1, you know that the character design is phenomenal and they did not miss in game 2. All right, combat. It is your standard Fire Emblem like gameplay. So if you're used to tactical RPGs and Fire Emblem, you're going to be very used to this type of gameplay. There seems to be a rock, paper, scissors system kind of in the background with the weapons, but it's not explained, and I'm not sure if I missed that. But it just feels like your typical Fire Emblem affair where axes are better against lances, lances are better against swords, swords are better against axes. You have your typical dagger, and you have your ranged combat with both magic and bows. The damages have been split mostly into physical and magic, from what I can tell so far. The abilities or skills are a nice touch to the combat system, and mana regens per turn, allowing for the actual use of these combat skills, which I find to be awesome. It's a nice twist to the typical gameplay that you would find in a normal Fire Emblem game, having these skills, making it more of a traditional RPG, if you will. There are enemy affixes that vary the combat and make it more challenging and give a risk reward system. So it's like, do I fight this tougher enemy for the loot, or do I leave them alone and progress on with the rest of the mission? I really like this system that they have added. And then the injury system is back from Dark Deity 1. It's a less harsh punishment than your Fire Emblem permadeath. So what happens is if a character dies in a map, they don't actually die. They get injured, and then you have a stat debuff for the next chapter or two. All right, empowered enemies. This is what I was talking about with the enemy affixes. So this is an affix system, as I mentioned earlier. Enemies can spawn empowered, which means they are tougher to defeat, but they generally will have loot for killing them. So you can see right here, denoted by the skull, the white skull, I should say, because the yellow skull would be a boss. They have a different either buff to them or something like that that makes them tougher than a normal enemy. And typically, there is a loot incentive for killing said enemy. Player progression. I think this is where Dark Deity shines a lot. The combat abilities that I mentioned before, phenomenal. There are rings that can increase your character power. There are runes that can be slotted into your weapons that also create more character power. There's a varied class tree, and it's accessible very early on from level 5. And I can really see the build potential and variety here for multiple playthroughs or just to play around within a single playthrough. So, runes and weapons. Characters can have one weapon at a time, but there seems to be a variety of weapons of each archetype. So on the screen here, I have a short sword and a scimitar, but you can see where this is going with varied weapons for axes, daggers, ranged units, and things like that. And the weapons are based on the different class of the unit. You can equip these in a inventory management screen when you are not in a mission. And as you can see on this screen here, you can socket 2 runes into a weapon, which gives it varying bonuses depending on the rune that have been slotted in. You can remove a rune for a gold cost, which is a nice balance. So you can mix and match. You can kind of test around for your builds, but you're not forced into your choice. You can respec if need be. Rings. Rings can be created by combining different gems that you find throughout the world, and it's another way to get different effects on your character, like extra stats or different conditional effects, and characters can equip up to 2 rings. As you can see, the ring that I had created right here is the Destiny ring, and when you end your turn with a wait instead of taking an actual action, your next turn you get a plus 40 onto your crit chance, which is awesome. Okay, the abilities. Characters get abilities based on their class that can be used during combat for a certain mana cost. You have damage skills, support skills, and debuff and utility skills that help you turn the tide of battle. Abilities can be upgraded 4 times, enhancing them using different essences. Fire upgrades, or sorry, fire upgrades are for damages, life upgrades are for support, and crystal upgrades are for your utility and debuff skills. Elixirs are another phenomenal way for character progression. You find these throughout the playthrough as well, and they give you a permanent stat boost to one of the stats for your character, whether it's HP, might, speed, dexterity, defense, fortitude, mastery, or luck. I have found quite a few of these already in my first few hours of play. Character bonds. As heroes battle in the vicinity of each other, they strengthen their bonds, which helps them out in combat. So if you're familiar with the relationship type systems in previous Fire Emblem games and things like that, you'll be very, very comfortable with this type of system here. They strengthen their bond by fighting near a bonded character. It's a nice quality of life that I like that this game adds is you get items or gold each bond level. So it's just a nice incentive to make sure you are doing this. Bond levels also trigger a little story sequence or scene between the characters, which is nice for character development. Unfortunately, it is not voice acted like the rest of the game, which is a bit of a downer, especially considering I do like the voice acting, but it is what it is. They are a very small studio. I still think it's a nice touch. Then class trees. This is where the build variety comes into play. Each character has a base class, and at level 5, they can ascend or pick a subclass, if you will, and I find that to be awesome right out of the gate. You get to level 5 very quickly. You can start to see where your character is going to progress. It's very nice. These ascensions enhance their combat abilities with skills and stat boost, different growth rates and things like that if you're familiar with the Fire Emblem franchise. There's a second ascension at level 25, but I have not made it there, at least through my playthrough yet. It's going to take me a while. But as you can see here with Gwyn, you have a base class with no abilities at all. Once you have picked either one of Devoted, Nightblade, Seeker, or Gallant, you'll get 2 abilities plus her ability for being Gwyn. Also, a passive comes with each of these as well. As you can see over on Valeria here, because she is a Nightblade, she has these 2 abilities. We have Grim Stroke and we have Fleet Feet, and then her passive of Shadow Step. So promotion is an excellent part of character progression. My overall thoughts, if you are a Fire Emblem fan, then you're going to love this game. I plan on making a full review when I beat the game, so thank you for watching, and if you liked the video and this style of presentation, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.